Awesome. So I'm going to start our discussion today based on what's happened with the Zoom presentation. Ali, I want to start with you. Metis is one of the top players in the layer two kind of space. And can you explain to us what layer two is, what's layer one, and then what is Metis trying to do?
Yes, sure. Well, layer one is what you have been knowing until almost the recent months as the blockchain Ethereum network. Layer two is what we are building to improve the efficiency, the time, and lower the gas fees on the transactions. We are basing our technology in optimistic rollups, but we fork it and we have enhanced the features with a lot of additional benefits that allow traditionally people that traditionally will not be able to get access to smart contracts to start interacting with the Ethereum blockchain. We recently launched our middleware, which is precisely this interface called Polis, by which you will be able to start deploying your own smart contracts and creating your own dApps. We are inviting everyone to come to metis.io and register for testing our Polis middleware. And we also recently launched our ecosystem for developers. So we are inviting new projects that would like to explore how to integrate faster into the Ethereum blockchain to come apply through our EDP.
So just like one more question for me on this. So if you think through Ethereum being sort of the network, right? The underlying, native chain layer one. And then you guys are optimizing things on that network that actually have, like gas fees. Everybody's heard of that, but there are all sorts of other issues, right? That create an opportunity for people on this in this clubhouse discussion who are entrepreneurs but not necessarily coders to launch things like a decentralized exchange or a DeFi company or an NFTs type company. Is that correct?
Yes, of course. In fact, we have what we introduced as Metis Swap, which is a fully operating exchange that you can create your own coins and exchange those. It's on a test net. It's not transacting actual assets or funds, but it fully operates and it allows you to see how fast and simple can the deployments be with our technology. So it is also available. Everybody is invited to try our Metis swap. As for NFTs, yes. In fact, yesterday when we launched our middleware, we showed live how to create an NFT in a matter of less than a minute. You can deploy your smart contracts. That was an example of a simple transaction of creating and uploading an NFT. But soon you will also have a menu of preset smart contracts, so it will be really accessible for non-coders that have a business model to upload their business into the blockchain and also to integrate with existing Web 2 applications.
Very exciting stuff. Michael, you are banking the unbanked with Pocket.io. And how big is that unbanked marketplace right now globally?
There's 1.7 billion people who are unbanked, and 1.2 billion of them are women, and around 1.2 billion of them are also have cell phones. So to create banking for them through the cell phones that they have, and they don't have to be smartphones in order for them to do that, is something that's really necessary. I mean, in these villages in Africa, I mean, one family will use one phone, right? And then they go and they try and get the money when they use Western Union or M-Pesa or some of these others. And at the cash pickup locations, they come back with the cash, and a lot of them are getting robbed. So it creates kind of a nice, easy, secure methodology for all of them to just, go get money from a relative or a student that's over in Europe. And right now we're based in Europe and we have 60,000 users and 123 million euros in transaction volume since the beginning of the year. So it's really starting to take off. And, if we just look at Facebook, we only did 1 month of advertising on Facebook. The return was a 32-cent CAC, customer acquisition cost. It's the card that when we send out the card, that's what actually raises our fee to 13 euros per user. So it's just taken off like wildfire. We didn't even do any advertising in Britain. And it was amazing. The word of mouth spread. We only did some French ads on Facebook and it exploded. And, a third of our revenue started coming from transfers from the UK to Nigeria and to Kenya and all those places. So it's a need to have, not a nice to have. And as a result, that's why people are telling each other through word of mouth, because there's really nothing like this that gives them that kind of banking opportunity and to have a card and to actually participate in the digital universe of commerce, like using Amazon. And they can't get paid for their jobs, right? Because they get paid in cash and get robbed sometimes. And other times they can't get a bank account because it takes like 6 to 12 weeks to get a bank account in Europe, which is just incredible. So, so it's going like gangbusters, and we have more demand than we can fulfill right now. So that's why we're going for our Series A.
It's so interesting that at some point you will have to think through whether Pocket.io needs to have cryptocurrencies integrated with it, as a form of more stabilized commerce in some of these regions.
Absolutely, and we're actually that's why we're doing the presentation, because we really want to integrate with
Maybe with
Right.
Ryan. Yeah.
yeah, and so it's in our plan, it's in our course, and that's why we want to really actually almost kind of investment partner with crypto companies so we can integrate them as soon as we can.
And you're
And part of the
open
but
to all the
part
chains, right? Is that what you told me earlier?
right now we are, yes,
So maybe
yeah, and
Metis.io is your place to try it out.
Yes,
yeah,
sure. Come. We'll be glad to help you.
thank you very much. I will take you up on
And you
that,
should talk to
and
Ryan too. So Ryan, with your decks, why did you decide to launch this decentralized exchange? There are many decentralized exchanges out there. As you pointed out, PancakeSwap, Uniswap, these are big competitors. Why now?
Um, the people need it. Um, there's too many people that don't know about crypto. I talk to people every day. I meet people every single day. There's just too many people that don't know about crypto. They don't know where to start, and lots of times they get pointed in the wrong direction. Um, they get pointed to people on social media where someone's trying to invest your money for you, and then they lose their money, and then they think Bitcoin is a scam. Like, Bitcoin is not a scam. You got scammed by a person. Um, the lack of education is a major problem. The lack of places to onboard is a major problem. That's why Coinbase has done so well, because that's where they position themselves, and that's why they just went public, and they're huge. Um, but they're centralized, and there's problems that come with that. There's problems that come with centralization. Um, Matter of fact, like I'm not a huge fan of banks. There there's there's a ton of problems when I try to move my cash from bank account to bank account. These centralized organizations that there's too many issues. So decentralized is the way to go. It's the way it's supposed to be. People are supposed to be able to hold their money. Um, it's not supposed to be controlled, manipulated. Like Bank of America, I believe, already has a patent on fractional reserve banking for crypto. Like that's exactly what we're trying to get away from. So decentralization for finance is 100% needed, and the education needs to be there too. So there's people that know how to trade on Coinbase, but then when they get to a decentralized exchange, it's a little confusing, especially when you're trading from one crypto to another. To understand how the conversion rates work, it's really confusing. So we need to simplify that for people. It's needed, and that's why we created it. That's the easiest answer.
Awesome. So Panos is was also our panelist today in the virtual Infiom Salon, and he was talking about the MPEG standards for creation of integration of smart contracts with video. A lot of the people in this salon are focused on launching entertainment ventures and or are entertainment entrepreneurs. Panos, do you think the standards will have any sort of effect on launching ventures in the space, and or will it maybe help and ease that process?
Uh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Uh, I suppose you mean about adoption of the standard.
Yes.
Uh, at the moment, we have about 45 companies in the group. Not all of them are contributing, but they are watching us. And these are the largest companies in the world in the media, manufacturing, and mobile phones, and so on. So they are expecting, I don't know, to finalize the standard, to be able to test it. And there is always the patents thing in MPEG. They are under fair and reasonable conditions to all. But yeah, the larger the number of people participating in the group and the contributors to the group, they make the adoption. We're not one of the biggest MPEG groups, but for sure they are watching us, what we are doing. And this is going on for some years now, because the ontologies happened in the last 10 years. And now we try to combine them with the smart contracts and blockchains. So I cannot say how much is going to adopt it of this in the future by the music and media companies, but we hope so.
And this is now a little bit more about our newsletter. We publish a newsletter every Sunday about the latest news in the blockchain space, DeFi, NFTs, etc. And so I just want to, present this to the panel that it seems to, based on this last newsletter, we had so many articles of the expansion of NFTs beyond just marketing of art and creation of media, video, audio, music projects. But now NFTs are becoming de facto marketing solutions for rewards points. And we discussed that a little bit last time. And this latest one is about NFTs actually being used for e-commerce projects. And so the NFTs almost literally kind of replacing this whole supply chain management. What I think Christian has been talking about for several years now, but finally happening in a larger scale with due to the fact that a lot of the commerce is now done through e-commerce, and this is sort of a next logical step. Has anyone seen many projects in this space, and what are your thoughts on the adoption? Okay, well, I could start. So the really interesting thing about NFTs being added to the sale of products and services, many people in the e-commerce and commerce space that they can potentially replace the SKUs. It's a blockchain based analog of the SKU technology. And so, in addition to just kind of dealing with, an inventory of products, they can also replace, in essence, they can replace that technology, create more sturdy environment and ability to see something that's transparent, immutable, etc. on the ledger. But also they can promote marketplaces and secondary marketplaces for things that didn't exist in the past. It can encourage people to build one of a kind products, so not just art, but one of the kind, things that didn't exist before, and then sell them, almost in sort of an auction environment. It can support more equitably profit sharing systems like Ryan's, Dex. And he's not using NFTs for that, but that's what some of the companies are doing to, with NFTs usage. And it can also allow emerging brands to establish themselves as, e-commerce companies without a lot of onboarding costs, which is, I think, what Leah's platform is doing, etc.
Yeah, Mariana, I think if we look at the NFT space right now, it's suffering from a lot of the same things that Ryan was talking about, in that consumers are not very educated in certain cases, and they find onboarding difficult. And there are certainly some companies that have made inroads into that space, but it's the same thing that Ryan was saying about, there have been people who have gotten involved with bad actors in this space, and then they say, well, NFTs are a scam, and obviously they're not. There are certain people who are presenting these that are a scam, but there's also some really basic misunderstandings about what an NFT does, and the function that an NFT holds, in terms of where is the thing, and where how do I get the thing. And I think that's part of the challenges that we're seeing in these adaptions of NFT to other verticals.
Jeanette, can I add on to that? This is Michael.
Absolutely.
So a couple different spaces that I've looked at that really could use it are where customers intersect in mass ways. And one of those is a supermarket. And my friend Brian created Fresh Shop, which is the back end e-commerce system for over, I think, 3,000 markets, right? So if you can educate perhaps some of them to learn how to build it into their payment systems, I think that'd be almost a home run, because then they would launch education campaign for all their consumers to understand how potentially to use different types of tokens, right? And the people are there, so there could even be things that are on display. There could be classes they hold, other things. Because I previously was trying to launch a food delivery business using electric bikes and electric cars. So I partnered with Brian and many grocery stores, and we were doing delivery and building e-commerce solutions just to make sure that we were only hiring local, and trying to compete with Grubhub and all those. So what I found is the supermarket associations, there's like three of them, it really could use it. In particular, they also could use it for logistics. So not just as a payment transaction from NFT, but also in terms of the blockchain, right? Because they can't track each product from each place through all the distributors. And sometimes they have like 60 distributors that distribute to the market, to one market, right? And then just imagine that, how many supermarkets are in the world. So that, I think, is a very hefty way. The other thing I want to bring up is people that get food stamps now, the script programs. That's a huge field that could use it. If you could educate them, they have to get the money. So if they can get the money using some sort of token, and that token can be accepted by all the markets who accept eScript, then you've also hit another huge potential market.
If I can add something, I think that NFTs have huge potential. We tend to associate the images of some famous NFTs with the concept, but in practice, the NFT can be a container for many kinds of ideas, informations, data, and it has a lot of attributes that working within a sequence of smart contracts in a blockchain can deploy almost any of those supply chains examples you have been discussing. So the really interesting part is to figure out how to use the available technology to improve your current business model. So basically the NFT should be regarded as the container, but a container with extra features that will allow you to obtain results far better than you were getting with traditional systems.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. A lot of people, a lot of articles are always written. It's so funny. The articles create the hype and they're written about the hype a lot of the times as you look at the blockchain press, right? And so everybody's now talking about the fact that NFTs have dropped in price 70% and this was just a bubble, et cetera, et cetera. However, you really have to look at them as a technology and not as some sort of, a bubble of sales of art projects, for example, right? So if you start looking at it as a technology that's going to augment or improve, as Leah's pointing out, or Michael pointed out, e-commerce, then we're really in that, that Gartner graph of, there's technology triggers, then there's some positive hype, and you didn't join just because it's in. Then the negative hype comes. It's a bubble. This was, internet, everything went through this. And then at the bottom of that negative hype starts to develop a curve that that people jump in because the technology is actually being adopted. And so at that point you don't want to miss out on this technology just because it's out. So I feel that's where we are at the NFTs cycle. We're about to start that curve that's going to now create real applications of the technology. What do you guys?
Well, this is Michael. I'll add one small thing into just what you said and piggyback off it and say that, I know I run a group called ecodads.org. It's a nonprofit that does ecological literacy. But I know that there's a lack of climate data just everywhere. And right now, the U.S. government is funding climate projects and new appeals and with a huge, I mean, just, in the trillions of dollars. So I think blockchain's application to help that move quicker, faster, further, and be able to be, interoperable is really, really important and key. And it's a huge amount of money that's available.
Yeah, I agree, Michael. If I can tag on to that, and I think the key to I think a lot of the NFT hype came because, or the reporting about NFT hype is because people have a real hard time understanding what NFT is, just like they have a hard time understanding what blockchain is. They always have. I mean, I've been writing about this for about 5 years now, which is a while in this space. And I think what they don't necessarily understand NFT, but they know what $63 million is or $8 million is, and so they're like, okay, well they're writing about things that people understand, and I think the next wave is going to be really amazing implementations of that NFT that kind of almost make the NFT part of it transparent, and we're going to see a post-it note or a band-aid kind of solution where the implementation sort of becomes the de facto way of talking about that style of NFT, if that makes sense. Done talking.
Donette, may I have a question?
Yes. Sorry, I had to move you down. You have to mute yourself.
No, it's
When
okay.
you're not
I'm
talking.
also familiarizing with this application. I've never used it before, so it's.
It's okay.
I do have a question about NFTs, and maybe the people in here they know better than me. Are they interoperable, or they are related to one and only blockchain at the moment?
Well, they were launched on Ethereum. So the token is actually an Ethereum-based token. Um, and, the question is, some of the NFT platforms that we're working with are also operable on the Binance chain. And clearly everyone's going to have one. Basically everyone's going to have the ability to launch these non-fungible tokens, and so the question is going to be what it will be the standard, right?
Yeah, so we are talking about Ethereum NFTs. At the moment, they're not supported by other blockchains.
Well,
And
actually the platforms that we are working with right now that are launching these sort of supply chain NFTs, they're operable on Ethereum and on the Binance Smart Chain.
okay, and how they compare with what is called DIDs now? I think decentralized IDs by W3C, I think.
See, this maybe only you and Christian could address this. Way beyond my knowledge.
Yeah, we are also exploring, but I don't know the answer at the moment. Okay, thank you.
This is a
Yeah.
really good question, Panos, because conceivably that could be a better technology. I don't know, right? But the bottom line is what Jeanette was saying. It's whatever the markets adopt as the de facto, technology. It could be the first mover. It could be better, managed, better marketed. The jury's out what's going to win out. But the idea that there is a non-fungible token, unique token of digital data attached to a physical product or to a digital product is what the business is about, right?
Yeah. I mean, for sure they have value for applications of any kind. But I mean, from the standard point of view, interoperability is always the question. So that's we are exploring how they can be as much interoperable as possible. But I don't know yet the answer. And from the music space, there are billions spent in creating IDs for the songs and so on. But they failed in the past, and now, they may use NFTs or not in the future. We don't know, but they have already so many identification numbers for the IPSRC code, the IS work code, and there are at least a dozen of them at the moment.
Well, I can
And
spend hours with you discussing this and totally geek out, because I believe that supply chain management for music and film and TV is going to be with NFTs, and I think Christian does that as well. And the issue is,
Amen.
the issue is going to be like how it's done and executed. And of course, when the big players that you're saying are watching on the sidelines are going to jump in and adopt it.
I do have a question on identifiers as well to Panos and the group. I'm curious, is there any relationship happening with EIDR, EIDR, and identifiers, since EIDR, I believe, comes out of ISO as well? And if people have been looking at trying to combine the smart contract and the EIDR nomenclature or the ontology for EIDR and its nomenclature for cataloging everything in the film industry. And that's my question. I'll leave.
Yeah, we have to cope with many identifiers, and there is some work. There is an ISO standard. It's called digital item identification, which relates IDs between them, because a song may have many and different IDs, and they all resolve to the same song. And that's the digital item identification standard can relate different IDs. I think one of them can be also an NFT ID. So there is some solution for interoperable IDs, at least for the music space and media space, but has not been widely deployed up to now.
I want to make an introduction to film tracks for you. They handle the digital rights management for 70 film distribution studios, and they do have an issue with their music. So I'll make that intro to the co-founders.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Michael. So NFTs are enabling the music industry, since we're discussing it right now, for the artists to provide special perks and privileges to the fans. And we've been discussing this quite a bit over the last few months here in the clubhouse. I think Adrian's not here today, but she would talk about these NFTs that allow exclusive access to certain brands and certain performers in the space. But interestingly enough, there is a statistic that says that in the sports memorabilia, depending on the category, right, there's between 50 and 80% of the items purchased by fans that are actually fake. So there's this whole issue of validity of these items. And, the question is quite interesting because I would say some of the takeoff of NFTs is the fact that for the first time you can actually attach the authenticity to these things that are basically licensed from the brand, from the performer. Do you see any other areas that have such an obvious application with NFTs when it comes to consumer commerce in general? I can add more, but Leah, you want to discuss?
Yes, well, I have seen some projects of registering real estate where the titles, the actual land papers, are NFTs. So that's a really practical use of the NFT, way out of the entertainment, art, and music industry. So basically, any kind of transaction that benefits for the uniqueness and the traceability and the impossibility of tampering with, it's a good candidate for working with NFTs.
And I'm glad you brought up real estate because that's one of the biggest applications that we're seeing at the moment. Apparently, there's another statistic today. I'm like, statistic uh, generator here. There is only 30% of the global population has legally registered rights to their land property. Kind of unimaginable, sitting here in the US thinking that, but that's the case. And when you don't have these, legally registered rights, it's much harder to access finance, credit, and all of these banking opportunities that Michael is talking about. So I feel that that's a big application that would also change this unbanked kind of system we're living in.
I think there's a really wonderful opportunity, Mariana, for somebody to bundle together. There are a lot of mobile apps, particularly utilized in Africa, that help people attain rights to their land from GPS-based surveying of their space to title management. And I think there's a way to incorporate NFTs in a pack. Again, that sort of super ultimate app that's going to help pull all of the pieces together for people who are in that situation.
It's interesting. I think one of the companies that does that, Jeanette, is Monax, which Esther, the CEO, has presented here on the panel a couple times ago.
Yeah.
She'll be good tie-in with what Leah's doing as well, because you can actually add, a legal contract on any blockchain transaction with what Monax does, and provides that way of creating that wrapper you're describing, Jeanette.
I'd love to see a Fortune 100 client tie blockchain from the farm or the place where the stuff is milled to the factory wherever it's made for any consumer product, right? And then to the store, and then to the closet or to the kitchen, right? There's a couple associations who are working on that, but none of them are talking about blockchain.
Oh, yes. So there is an example, actually. This was from 2019, Michael. So it was before the NFTs. Bumblebee Tuna created a supply chain management on blockchain application inside the company, so you can track if the tuna was sustainably farmed or whether it was wild caught, and then how it was processed, how long it took to get to the distributor. As you pointed out, there are many of those. How did it actually get to the supermarket and then to one's table? So they had access to all of that data, and they created that supply chain management project. They didn't do it with NFTs, but I think that would be the next step.
That's fantastic. Because I mean, I would call like General Mills or Nestle or Procter and Gamble.
I
That's what
yeah.
I keep thinking.
No, there are some blockchain based companies that are tracking farm to table. But I think the real challenge is that, like with what Bumblebee Tuna did, it's great, but that's one product, and what we're really looking for is like I think, if I'm understanding you correctly, Michael, is a good housekeeping seal of approval, where it's a trusted voice that can apply to more than one product, so that the customer doesn't need to learn 18 or 80 different kinds of verification.
Exactly, and it would also have some site they could go to watch, just like an Uber driver coming to you on your app. You watch where it came from and where it's at, and and how the cost goes up, and it could be other data links and data, packets associated with that, right? So anyway, it's a good marketing play, right? And but it's also good for people because then they can go deeper and have a deeper relationship with their products. I've mostly been thinking from the ground up, not the top down. So I've been thinking about all the independent markets because there's thousands of them internationally, and just how what they choose to have. You can go to that market and then look up everything inside of that supermarket. So because shoppers are the trend is massively improving right now. People are really becoming a lot more ecologically savvy and showing it with their purchase decisions. So if there can be something full circle like that, that's something that would be great to present to Biden.
I think that's great, and I am going to go patent a selfie stick for John Deere tractors like this week. So, yeah.
Woo!
But I think you guys have a point here that how much do we really know about the products we purchase every day, and
Very
how much
little.
do we want to know, right?
Yeah.
So the NFTs are creating a system that we were hoping it would be here many years in the making, but a system where you can attach a digital file that could give you as much information as you want to know. Giving you an example, you're purchasing or you're returning something in a store, right? And you may have purchased it online, you may have purchased it in the store. If you purchase it online, you may have a receipt in your email. If you purchased it in the store, you may or may not, depending if you decided to have it emailed to you or not. And then when you're there and you're trying to figure out whether this is 30 days or 60 days or how many days that overdue, you have no idea. You're trying to fumble through your email. It's the very inefficient way. It's kind of halfway to digitization, right? But with an NFT, the data would be accessible immediately. You would know when you purchased it, for how much you paid for it. Is it past due? Can it be returned or not? All these things that we sort of have to deal with every time we purchase an item, and we just take them for granted. Just like the fact that it takes weeks in Europe to open up a bank account, people take it for granted.
Yeah, and you look at companies like Patagonia or people that have sort of that halo ecological, sustainability type of, feel and seal. They're the ones that want that because that's what their customers are demanding. So it's an interesting target segment to explore deeper for this. And the stores that sort of sell their products as well, right? Because there's all kinds of off the rack places that are co-ops that sell sustainable goods. So sustainability and all the sustainability organizations throughout the country, because there's many of them in towns throughout America, probably would get behind this. And there's also potential of getting the token funded, because then it becomes this local token that can be explored in every independent grassroots market and benefit the local community. So something to think about.
I love it. And I also think David Thiessen is someone you should meet. He was our presenter last time, and he has a bio coal coal replacement, that is much more efficient than anything in the market. And they're creating a DEX, kind of like what Ryan has just for that industry. So there's so many opportunities right now to affect sort of the issues we're dealing with on sustainability. And then our, main article this week, I have to address it, was about metaverses. How global brands like TikTok, Anheuser-Busch are approaching the metaverse and NFTs. And interestingly enough, these brands are trying to, create NFT strategies that would allow their users to be purchasing and interacting with these things inside a metaverse or inside, their sort of regular real life existence. And they all see that, kind of this mixed existence will actually be sort of the way that we live our lives in the near future. So, any thoughts on the metaverses and NFTs?
Well, I think one thing, this is maybe a little bit tangential to what you were asking, but one thing that I think is really interesting is the idea that we'll be able to hook these things up to visual and other kinds of tools that allow us to interact with this information in a way that's more interesting. Like I can see a day where your restaurant plate comes with a QR code, and you click on it, and it takes that farm to table data I was talking about, and creates an overlay where I can see a map of where in Los Angeles it came from, and I can click here to see a picture of my farmer, and I can click here to find out, what kind of sustainability systems they use. So I think that, to me, is there's sort of the imaginary worlds, but there's also the real world hookup that I think could be really fascinating.
And then you can invest or donate to that,
Exactly. Exactly. You can
participate.
fangirl out with your farmer.
Yeah,
Hey,
and
I
support.
just want to give some bravo to that idea. That's a great idea.
I love it. And, let's take it one step further to the metaverse. So I'll give you an example of what Anheuser-Busch did. They minted NFTs for their premium Stella Artois beer, which you can find in that restaurant, I guess. It also partnered with Zed Run to create 50 unique horses for digital horse racing. And the horses sold for millions of dollars, according to marketing team in Anheuser-Busch. And in this 165-year-old brewery also dropped an NFT of Chef Marcus Samuelson, um, his Yardbird chicken recipe to honor National Fried Chicken Day on July 6th. And they also auctioned 4 NFTs called Non-fungible tips to support the hospitality industry in the UK. So when they sold them, they donated the money to help bars and restaurants in Europe that were suffering from the COVID-19 crisis. So kind of came that full circle that you guys are describing. Do you think more brands will do this? And what would be the brand value that would result from these efforts?
I can tell you that one of the biggest challenges when you are in a conference or trying to integrate new public to the blockchain is this discussion of how to link real world concepts, ideas, or everyday objects with the NFT, and then with this metaverse, which seems to be a parallel new world where we are all learning to interact. So I do think that every company that is actively pursuing campaigns with NFTs and this kind of virtual perks are ahead of the market, and there will be a day when you will not even understand how didn't everybody had its own NFT for almost all that kind of transactions. But right now, we are still dealing with, let's figure out what can be transacted into the metaverse, what can live by itself without being attached to an actual item in the 3D world, and let's see what needs to still be transacted in the real world and just be reflected into this parallel reality that the metaverse represents.
Yeah, and it's really a great question, Leah, because it's complex enough just to figure out, as you pointed out, how to connect the real world with this digital world through NFTs alone. And then once you add the virtual worlds on top of it, it becomes layers and layers. It's not like one and one is two. It's like one and one is like 100 potential layers that you can put in there. Some that would confuse the consumers and some that would be welcomed by them.
Yeah, I think that's really true, Mariana. One thing I have been seeing though, in terms of this marketing approach to blockchain and NFTs, is it seems like the most successful efforts, like the Anheuser-Busch NF tips and other things, are linking to the Gen Z desire for companies to stand for something. So, for example, the Taco Bell one, which was like EMAS, they created a taco NFT and non-fungible tacos, they called them, and they were virtual tacos, but they were raising money for a program to help Hispanic Americans with a scholarship program. And so it seems like if it has a potential to do good and can really resonate with that Gen Z group, that seems to be the most successful.
So I agree with you, and I think that we're just really at the beginning of that upward. Back to Gardner, Gardner graphing where we are in the technology adoption. I think we've gone through positive hype, we've gone through negative hype, and we're now going into the scope of enlightenment of what can happen with these real life applications. And they're going to, I think, be able to create significant shifts in a variety of industries.
Mariana, one thing I keep thinking about from all this great discussion is third-party evaluations and seals of approval. I know that Climate Savers, which was a program that was done out of the World Wildlife Fund, chose one multinational company per vertical and did an evaluation of their sustainability. And if they hit a certain benchmark by committing to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions, they got their seal of approval. And what it was a double audited process. So there would be an auditing firm that would go in and audit, and then there was an auditing firm auditing the auditing firm. So a double seal like that of validation is something to also look into. And there's so many organizations that are already doing this, but they're not doing it in any connection with blockchain. So you hear little stories, but when you think of something like Climate Savers, that's small, right? But they're trying to track the sustainability from end to end for these multinational companies, but they're not doing it in a robust manner like the metaverse.
Well, the great thing about working with blockchain with regards to anything that requires a quality certification or auditing is that you can build in the audit. So you can design the process from the beginning in such a way that the information will be available and properly organized, and the audit will be really simple or not even necessary because it will be embedded in the creation of the item. So that's one of the great potentials of blockchain in terms of quality assurance.
Yeah, that's a great point. And something that, these tools that you're describing are now built in as part of the platforms like yours, which is just amazing way of kind of implementing some of the real life applications that Michael just mentioned. And I just want to, in these last few minutes, we have about 5 minutes left, to also talk about another article we had, which has to do with the fact that, NFTs are making their Broadway debut. And through basically creation of NFTs, collection built around playbill covers for some of the top tier plays like Ratatouille, the TikTok musical, Slave Play, Seawall, etc. Um, this is a really interesting undertaking, and one of the companies that I've been advising, called Monax, which attaches legal contracts to blockchain transactions, has been working on it with Nifty's just launched, and this is their first big project on the platform. And I believe that combining the playbill information with the Sony Music Masterworks, behind the hits in some of these plays, is just a really great memorabilia for the Broadway fan, especially now when Broadway has been out for so long because of the pandemic. Um, and this is just another way, another marketing application that we just found this week through articles. Have you guys heard of any other interesting things? And what do you think of this kind of cross platform application?
Well, I hear you, and all I can think is about how great the collaboration opportunities are now that we are within the blockchain environment. If you think of a pre-blockchain world, to achieve what you just described will have been really complex. But collaboration, it's one of the greatest results from having all this technology at our disposition. So it's like the sky is the limit for creating such a wonderful end result.
And so if I wanted to mint a Mariana NFT on Metis.io, how hard would that be, Leah?
Just minutes. We do have the demo online, and you can see how you get an account, create your user, get into the preset smart contract that we had implemented for the demo, and the NFT will be minted in minutes, less than a minute.
And the website is Metis.io, right?
Yes, metis.io.
And
Well,
then Ryan, go
I'll
ahead.
bid on I'll bid on a Mariana NFT because you're
Thank
pretty
you.
awesome.
You and I will be the only purchasers, I think. Ryan, how can we get on your decks?
Sorry. The Dex is it's app dot soku swap SOKU swap SWAP dot finance.
And we can start trading right away.
Absolutely, we're live on the Binance Smart Chain and the Ethereum network.
And if I wanted to have a Dex wallet versus like a Coinbase wallet, what would that mean for me?
Well, so a decentralized wallet means that you hold your own money. A wallet on Coinbase means that Coinbase is holding your money. So it's preferred to have a decentralized wallet, and this is what you use to interact with a decentralized exchange. So you have different DeFi wallets like um, uh, MetaMask or Trust Wallet. Binance has their own wallet right now. Um, so there's a bunch of different options out there, and for people that aren't really familiar, think of it like this: when you take your money to the bank and you put your money in the bank holds it, and they have a ledger of how much money you have. So that's the same way it works when you have your money in Coinbase. When you have your money in a decentralized wallet, it's more like having it in your own personal safe that can interact with the rest of the world.
But
So
also could
that's the
earn
biggest difference.
interest, etc.
Oh, absolutely. Like our farms are paying out like 25,000% APR as of right now. So there's definitely better ways to save your money um, versus a conventional bank account. I have an account with a Chase Bank here in the U.S. and I believe their savings account pays out like a 0.01%. So there's definitely better options out there, and SokuSwap has a better option.
Awesome. And then Michael, Pocket.io is also live at the moment in some countries.
It's live throughout all of Europe, and that's where you can get it. You can trade to 180. You can send money to 180 countries, so people just get a text message to go to the bank. But right now, it's throughout all of Europe.
Awesome. So we had some live applications today presenting, and also here in the clubhouse. I want to thank everyone for joining us and all of our presenters for staying with us, some even for 2 hours. Appreciate your time. And then thank you everyone for being such a wonderful audience and joining us through both Zoom and Clubhouse. And remember, next Wednesday, Jeanette and I are going to be launching this clubhouse discussion on what a DAO, what an NFT, what DeFi is, and no question will be unanswered. So bring any question you have. Don't think of them as easy or simple or difficult. Just bring your questions and we'll answer them all here at 12:30 next Wednesday. And then we're back with this event, which is kind of in-depth venture creation discussion at 1:30 next Wednesday. So thank you, everyone. See you then.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.